Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
I shall join you, sir, in a nice drink. Hello, mate. That's unusual for you. You're not on the tea or coffee today.
Orange juice. Well, you know, it's. I mean, I hate to mention it, but it is rather warm outside.
It is quite warm, mate. Guess what I've got?
What have we got? Oh.
So you remember? Was it a couple of weeks ago we were talking about fitness and health and
yes,
sort of
yeah,
keeping up and stuff. And you asked about supplements and protein and stuff like that. Well, I've recently purchased some new protein powder or protein shake, diet shake things. And this, would you believe, is the first ever try. I've not actually had any. So I've just made one. Apologies to people listening to the podcast or even watching, because this is highly unentertaining content, I'm sure.
Oh, I don't know, because depends on what it tastes like, mate.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So, chin chin. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Off you go, mate. Yeah.
That's really not good.
Oh. Oh dear.
Yeah, no, that's really. We're not finished it, and we've got a podcast to do, and it's bloody hot, so I need a drink. But yeah, I'm probably not going to reorder that one. It's supposed to be raspberry and white chocolate flavored.
That's an unusual combination in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah. It tastes more like chalk, if I'm being honest. Anyways. So other than melting in this, what seemingly seems to be an endless wave of heat and hot days, mate, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. Yes, I'm all right. I've had a busy week. I'm, more of the same. Just keeping trolling on. A little bit of work, a little bit of line learning, a little bit of reading. I've started making some tentative preparation for Christmas. So I've just started looking at the script.
As you do in this kind of heat.
Yeah. As you do in a 35-degree heat wave, yes. Yeah.
Absolutely mental. But
how about yourself, bud?
Well, yeah, but very much the same. Lots of little odd bits and pieces. I was a bit sort of almost disappointed I wasn't on tour this summer, but actually I've had a lot of other work instead, which has been great. And I'm not sure I'd want to be on tour doing get-ins, get-outs, driving around in a van which may or may not have aircon and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I think perhaps this summer has worked out quite nicely for me. Bear with me, I'm just going to have some more of this.
You have some more chalk dust. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can't see Sam's face, you will not know the torture. It looks like you just bitten into a lemon.
No, that I like lemon.
Right.
So that would be a nice relief, I think, mate. But anyway, no, we are here, and albeit in a very hot studio, and I'm sure it's very warm in your front room.
It
is a slight win over being stuck in a traffic jam somewhere where actually you open the window and it's hotter outside the car than it is inside it. So we must count the small blessings, I think, mate.
Well, I mean, it's true. There is a lot of travelling and a lot of and it's not always the pleasant part of our daily existence, is it, Jobs? I don't know about you, but there have been times I've been stuck in traffic jams and cursing. I think I'd rather be at home.
Well, it's an interesting point actually, because until you really think about it, I guess you don't take into account just how much travelling we do. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not moaning, because I like driving, I like being in the car, I like that travelling element, and it is part of the course. It's the nature of what we do. Very rarely do you end up doing something that is very close to home and in the same place over and over again. I mean, obviously you're not too far from the watermill where you do a lot of performance work. But that just makes it a regular journey, almost like anyone else commuting to work, I suppose.
Yeah, it's true.
And I guess if if you were doing a resident show in the West End or something in a theatre that ran for a long period of time, then again you have that regular commute. A lot of the time, which potentially would be on tubes or trains or what have you, which again in the mega heat, probably not the most fun place to be. But yeah, I genuinely don't think I've really thought massively about it. But obviously, doing your tax return and stuff, and you're making a note of mileages and things, the numbers are quite large. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do. It really is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, when I take my car in to be serviced, if I take the same car and the garage always go, bloody hell, you did have to do some miles. And I say, well, yeah, it is. As you say, it is part and parcel of what we do. I mean, certainly, if you're doing if you're on tour and that, then you probably got a couple of journeys a week there and back kind of thing. And if you use your own vehicle to travel with, I do because I kind of like the freedom it gives me.
Yeah.
But,
it
also
depends, doesn't it, on location more than anything
yes,
else.
of course.
And depends on the company and the nature of the tour. Sometimes if it's small scale, but as in a smaller team, you'll often be all in one vehicle and it's normally a hired van or similar. Actually, just like I did the tour with Reflex Theatre, although I wasn't performing, I was tour managing that. And and obviously we a few weeks ago we had Sam on, didn't we? Sam, tour. But that was a sort of medium-ish sized van because we carried all the set and all the props in it, and I had two ragamuffins sat in the front, the two actors with me. So I guess that's a slightly different. But again, like that was some fairly substantial mileage, even though it was a very much small-scale tour and it only covered a couple of counties. There was still some fairly heavy mileage going on with that. Do you know? And this will sound maybe perhaps a weird thing to talk about, but how do people who don't drive get by in this industry?
Well, it's very interesting. There was two. See, there was a question I was going to ask you, which will come in a minute. Is whether actually transport and location sort of affect whether you take a job or not. But yes, if you don't drive, you are at yes, as you say, some companies are not a problem. You do it's a company van or a crew bus or whatever, and away you go. But then of course that you may not be traveling from home. You may not be from your home base, so you've got to get somewhere. And even if you're doing a play in a show or whatever production in one venue, you've still got to get there. And I mean, yeah, one off, jump on a train, go to wherever in the country, you're there, and then you just come home again. But if you have to consider, if you're doing one like touring around, a small scale tour around London, and say meeting the van somewhere or whatever, which has happened in the past, I jumped on the tube, and nowadays I would probably say, "Can I drive? Are you okay?" Some companies will go, "No, we want you in the van," but yeah, how do you? Because I mean, that would affect whether we know a couple of people that work for the dinner theatre company, and they don't have cars, and sometimes the poor buggers are stuck with dragging a suitcase full of props and costumes. Yeah. You think a double problem then, because you go, well, I've got to go on a train. Yes, they're paid, their travel is paid for them, but yeah, I think that would make a job longer, because you have no choice. You have to go when someone books your train, or your coach or whatever, and you have to come home when they tell you to. So that's why I say I love using the car, because if I want to come back from sometimes you say, oh, you can stay overnight. You go, do you know what? I'm going to drive home. It buys me the day the next day, but you don't have a choice. And then as I say, that must then surely affect whether you take a certain job or not.
Well, yeah, I guess cost comes into it as well, doesn't it? And you can look at it from both sides. So don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people in London who don't drive or have passed their test, but not had a car because it's just not feasible if you're living in Central. And that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing more and more that London isn't the sort of the centre of all work. Certainly if you went back, and you'll be able to better talk about this than I will, if you went back maybe 20, 30 years, a lot of stuff was produced in London. I think the BBC were based in London, weren't they, previously?
Yeah,
And there were
yeah.
other big production companies. Whereas now places like Cardiff, Liverpool, Bristol, it's dotted around. And don't get me wrong, these are all the examples I've given there are all major cities, so all have train stations, and then getting from a station to something when we've got Uber or scooters and bikes you can hire and all that is doable. But it just adds more and more stages to it. Whereas for you or I, if they say, right, we need you to be in blah, 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 you go, right, well, here's the start point, here's the end point, and that's my car. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I know I've gone off on a sort of different tangent there because I was talking mainly about sort of the financial side of it. Because owning and running a car is becoming more and more and more and more expensive. It really is.
Yes, it is.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, there are things going in the world that's caused fuel to go right up. It has, touch wood, dropped slightly at the moment, but who knows what happens next because it could go anywhere. I mean, it's certainly, I've been driving best part of 20 years and fuel has doubled in my lifetime.
Oh, it's
Or
ridiculous.
in my
Yeah.
driving
Yeah.
career, if you like. I mean, back when you started driving, it was probably a penny a litre or something fucking ridiculous because you
Oh,
were
mate,
1,000 years old.
we didn't have petrol then.
No,
But
you used to just buy a bag of hay for the horses, didn't you?
that's right, mate. That's right. Yeah. But no, it's. I mean,
The comparisons, isn't it?
sorry.
The money for driving, to own a car, to insure a car, to tax a car, all those things, and to fuel a car are expensive. But you look at the cost of trains now.
Well, that's the other thing. You know, it's like, but and it's. I think it's more and more. Even though touring is different because you accept that you are going to be on the road and you're going to be getting around in one way or another. But very often you look at casting breakdowns and it will say must be locally based.
Yeah.
For the very reason, more often than not, they just can't afford or do not want to pay for you to drive somewhere or get on a train or some form of transport. And neither do they, when you get there, want to put you up in any accommodation. So that because there is the element of, traveling is one thing. And when you get there, you're going to have to stay somewhere, possibly. So that whole scenario that has completely changed.
Do you think another consideration, and actually you can answer for this because you do produce shows where you have to sort of take into account where people are coming from, regardless of the cost to travel. If a company says, look, we're casting this, we're not paying travel, they then might still dictate or suggest local casting only, because even if you take it upon yourself to go, well, I'm not local, but I'll absorb that cost because I want to do the show. Something goes wrong on that journey, then you could jeopardize, you might not be there, you might not arrive on time, etc. Whereas if someone is traveling from locally, the chances of that happening are greatly sort of condensed. So if it's a 10-minute journey by train or car, then worst case scenario, that probably makes it an hour walk or so. I mean, I'm throwing numbers around randomly. But there's still a way around it, or it might be easier to short notice get a cab. Whereas if something happens early on in your journey and you're 2 hours away, then that problem is far greater. So I think that's probably a consideration as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we're casting at Christmas, we like to have more locally based actors, simply because it's a rural venue. There aren't many. It's difficult to get to if you don't have a vehicle or you're not locally based. We do. Obviously, we don't. If there is someone who's right for the job, we will take them. We have ways of offering accommodation, and the accommodation is paid, which is they don't have to find their accommodation.
Yeah.
And we can control that. But I mean, you've got then you think, well, it's winter time. It's an early start to the day, so more often than not, the weather isn't great first thing in the morning. It's cold, it's icy, or whatever. So we do go, well, hang on a minute. That person is based, an hour's drive away. That person is 15 minutes away, or that person can stay in the village, a 5-minute walk away. So you kind of what you think you start to go, well, if you're an hour away, there's jeopardy there. Anything could go wrong. You might not make it. And then that puts us in a position of rejigging and having to think. So it does have a bearing on on casting, and we do stipulate that in the breakdown. We love people with their own cars. It's brilliant. If you got your own car, But then again, if you got your own car and you're 2 hours away, forget it. No, it's just not, you're not, and you're not going to want to do that. It's not practical. So even though work-wise, you and I have a car, sometimes traveling just becomes, it's just not practical. And like you say, it's expensive. So you look at the fee for something and you go, well, that's all very well, but half if I've got to get there myself, either by train or a car, half my fee is going to go in petrol. Unless they're paying it, in which case, fantastic. But you do have to think around it.
But even then, you've got to take travel time into account.
Yes.
So let's say you were doing a job that was 3 hours away, and so there's 6 hours of your day traveling already there and back, and it's a 1 hour shoot, and the money for the 1 hour is okay, and they've said, oh yeah, we'll cover your petrol or your fuel or whatever, or your train even. But at that point, unless the money for that 1 hour shoot is the equivalent that you could get doing a 7 hour shoot that's on your doorstep.
Absolutely.
There's so much to take into account there. And as you say, having a car is a big bonus because it gives you that opportunity to sort of consider things in another way. But there's also that element of a 1 hour drive in good weather with no traffic is very different to that same distance, but in the middle of the winter where the roads are shit and there's so many people on the road because they're heading home for whatever, it then changes everything. So I guess you can't take that risk all the time as a producer that someone's going to account for. Yes, it's their responsibility to go, well, the traffic's going to be worse, so I should leave a bit earlier. The weather's worse, so I should and do this and check my car's all right. But you kind of can't bank that everyone will do that.
No, indeed, you can't. Some people want the work and they'll go, yeah, it's no problem. And you think, 2 weeks in, they're complaining. You go, well, I'm really sorry. There's nothing, We have had people say, I don't want to do the drive anymore. Can I have the digs? No, you can't. They're not there.
Too late now.
That's not the deal. I'm really sorry, but and then you're stuck with an employee who's not happy. It's got the hump, and you think, I'm really sorry. We can make this, easy. How can we make this easier for you? But it's that. I do, and I know myself. I look at jobs and I go, okay, there's a negative there. How much will that impact on me really enjoying or not enjoying the job? You know what I mean? So you do sometimes go, no, I'm not going to do it. I think I'm not going to put myself in that position.
I think I've mentioned before on the show, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but there's also sometimes people aren't necessarily as switched on when it comes to travel and stuff. People's geography maybe isn't quite so good. So
yes.
The story that I've probably told before was I was doing a casting, and I won't give specifics to keep it fairly vague, but the person had read and applied for the casting, and it said must have a base in Suffolk. And the person had read it as Sussex. So this performer was like, oh yeah, no problem. My parents live in I can't remember where it was, but somewhere in Sussex. And we're like, right, that's still 3 or 4 hours away.
Yeah,
Suffolk. Oh right, okay, yeah. So and unfortunately, we picked up on that there, but it could have been the case that wasn't how it went down. But we talk about all the problems and the difficulties and then the negative side of traveling. On the flip side of that, we've both been separately and together actually at times to some amazing places.
Yeah,
that wouldn't necessarily have been, or certainly wouldn't have had the onus to go to outside of holidaying if we weren't working there. I mean, we spent a lovely few days in Spain and Gibraltar together.
Yeah,
that was some years ago now, actually.
That was a couple of few years ago, wasn't it? Yeah, but it's. I mean, I love the I like the fact that my job takes me away, and I like going away. Having the weekends and that. And yeah, it's an adventure. You think, well, I'm going somewhere. Sometimes you go somewhere I've never been here before. Yeah, okay, it's going to take me 3 hours to get there, but it's going to be fun. It's my time. and there's a lovely kind of, I know when I did a couple of film jobs, and you book a cottage and you think, okay, I'm going to have somewhere nice to stay. I'm going to go, yeah, I'll make a little bit of money out of this. But what it is, it's the experience as well. Sometimes you think, I'm not going to make any money out of this, but it's going to be great fun to do.
Yeah.
So, and the drives there. And I've driven into some bizarre parts of the country. I remember driving one night and following the sat nav and thinking, I don't know where I am. I don't know where the sat nav is taking me. This is a bizarre country road. I've just got to trust it. And and then this little country road popped out, and there I was on the main road, and the venue I was looking for was like 200 yards away. It's like, oh, brilliant. But you did think, I don't know where I'm going. I just got to go. You've got to go with the flow.
Follow the robots, do what it says.
Yes, I just got to point the car and hope.
Yes. Okay, then. So here we go. Here's a question for you, Drew. On the spot, what's the favourite place you've performed and the least favourite place you've performed?
Ooh. You mean getting to sort of thing, travel-wise?
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, perhaps somewhere that you go, I've been lucky enough to perform in this incredible venue due to travelling, or maybe it's somewhere nearby and you can sort of go, well, it was an easy journey and it's a lovely place. So I don't mind. Use any sort of criteria you wish.
Well, I remember, I did this little bit of filming I did about a year or so ago, and it was up in Bishop Auckland, beautiful part of the country. And I remember driving along this lane, and I had the postcode, and then it said at one point, it said, right, ignore the postcode from now on. You've got to go down this driveway. You'll see a red box on a tree. Turn left. Go another 400 yards, and then you'll pass 6 poplar trees. Keep going. Now you may think you're in the bit. Just keep going, and then you'll see the gateway. And I was trundling along. I don't know, and they got to the end. Went through this gateway, and there is this beautiful view, a lovely little cottage that I found on booking.com. There are other booking companies available. But I found this, and I remember going in and thinking, yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing this job anyway. And I've got this beautiful little cottage. I've had a lovely trip, and a little mystery trip. So that was that was a really lovely surprise. And I did have three great days there working, one day off in the middle, which was fabulous. And I had my car, so I went exploring. Yeah. Worst one, I remember Wolverhampton is a beautiful city, but driving in it was and I remember going into Wolverhampton, trying to find the Wolverhampton Grand. And I got another one. But I could see the Wolverhampton Grand. But because of their wonderful one-way system, I just could not get anywhere near it. And I was getting more and more frustrated. And the sat-nav was going, turn left. No, that's a one-way. Turn left. Oh, bloody hell. And I literally could see. And I wasn't actually going to work myself. I was going to see Verona at the theatre. But it was that was the worst one. And I remember going there years later, and I got some digs, and I said to the lady, where is it? She said, oh, you'll probably just want to, it's a 20-minute walk in. You can just park on the drive. And I went, that's what I'm doing. I'm never tackling the one way again.
No, absolutely.
But no, I had, the other one is Grimsby. And I remember, not for any other reason than I had to drive, and I had a casting, and they wanted to do a play reading. A reading of the script, and the director wanted me there, and I said, look, I'm on tour. Oh. So I drove from my house in London, and then I drove down to the venue in Crawley, and then I had to drive from Crawley to Grimsby be there. Yeah, I had to be there fairly early in the afternoon so I did the reading. We broke at lunchtime. Producer said, yeah, off you go. Lovely. Read the script. Fantastic. And then I drove like a fool up the motorway to get to Grimsby in time for the show.
It's got to be 4 hours, 5 hours?
It was 4.5, 4.75 hours drive. I'd already done a couple of hours to and from the venue as well, So
God.
yeah, I arrived like a wet rag. So that's one time. But and I said I could do it, and I was pleasing everybody, and the only person who wasn't happy in that situation was me. But how about yourself? What have you got experiences
So,
of good and bad like that?
As I asked the question, I thought, oh shit, I'm going to have to answer this as well. But
You are.
so I've got an interesting answer for you because I can think of two sort of antithesis answers to that question. So I can think of something where it was a lovely trip, and really enjoyed sort of like the journey and traveling and being in the area, but hated the show.
Ah,
And I can think of an opposite where the journey was awful and really just like, oh God, do we really have to do this? But at the end of it, an amazing venue. So the first one is actually going back to what we were talking about earlier. You, I, and a couple of others being out in Spain and Gibraltar, and flights were easy. We travelled around on buses and stuff. Obviously, the scenery was lovely. All the travelling was super easy. And then I'm sure, as you remember, we had a show that first night, and it just doesn't bear talking about because in its defence, it wasn't suited for what we were doing at all.
No.
The way it had sort of been advertised and the people that were attending weren't sort of geared up for what we were doing. And it just wasn't well equipped. I mean, to give an example, we ended up changing costumes in the street. So that sort of gives you an impression. But, I mean, the journey was lovely. We were really lucky to be out in such a beautiful country and in such wonderful weather.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other shows we did while we were out there were brilliant as well.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
it was just that particular show didn't really go as we'd hoped, I think is fair to say.
I think you're right, yeah.
The opposite of that was... and I, for the life of me, cannot remember what the name of the venue is, but it was my first time in Scotland. But we'd driven, I think, from south of Birmingham to get there.
Right.
And it certainly wasn't South Scotland. It was very much in the centre.
Yeah.
I'll have to look up and find out where the venue was. But the drive was horrendous, and bless his heart, Robin, who we had on the show a while ago, the drummer from the Doris Day tour, because it was one of the shows for that I'm referencing. He did the drive, and God knows how he kept going. Bless him. But kudos to him because he did. We obviously stopped off, but yeah, it was a long trek. But we got there, and the venue was stunning, and we were so well looked after, and the audience were brilliant, and the show went so well. So it's sort of, as I said, sort of antithesis answers there.
Yeah.
The only other one that springs to mind is I did a run of Annie, the musical Annie, years and years ago, at the beautiful King's Theatre in Southsea.
It's gorgeous.
At the time I was living down on the south coast, so the journey was about half an hour, so really easy. So a really, really lovely venue to perform in, and a nice, easy journey to get there. So that sort of ties in quite nicely. So
that's nice.
I guess maybe they're not. My answers are back to front because the journey doesn't represent the ending, but it's certainly done a lot of travelling. And
have you ever broken down
on
to a job?
Yes, I was on my way to a day of filming. It was a feature film, and we were about 2 days into about 2 weeks worth of shoot. And my car shit itself on the motorway in the outside lane, going 90 miles an hour, and all power went. Pulled over,
Hey.
Engine completely dead. Had to be towed back. Had to cancel that day of filming. So when you say broken down, that's well and truly broken down.
I had this. I was driving I was doing the tour of Strictly Murder, and we were in Cheltenham that night, and Colchester. No, not Cheltenham, Colchester. That's right, Colchester. And I'm pootling along on the North Circular, doing very nicely, thinking, I shouldn't be too. I'm driving to the campsite because I was camping on that leg of the tour. And suddenly lights are flashing, brakes are really not behaving themselves. So I pulled over I found a little garage, and I said, "Oh, I think my brake fluid, blah blah blah." And he looked, yeah. He said, "You've split the drum at the back. It's leaking."
Oh.
And I went, "Oh," and he said, "You can't drive like that."
Hmm.
So he very kindly, this is now, I suppose, mid to late morning. He makes a few phone calls. He said, "Right," he said, "there's a quick fit. No, other companies are available." He said, "Down the road." He said, "If you drive down there," he said, "I've told them the car." He said, "You drive down there and they'll sort it out for you."
Hmm.
So I drove down, wheeled the car in. These guys were like, there was like a pit stop. It really was. I got in there, and the bloke said, "Right, get out." He said, "Get in there. We've got some coffee on for you." And I explained, the guy said, "Oh, he's got to get to a show. He's doing a show and blah." There was another guy pulled in with a parts factor, motor factor, had the parts. They fitted the parts. They ran it up and down the road, tested it for me. I still then had to. That was it's a big job. They were really getting. I think I got to the theatre in Colchester. I think I got there around about 6:30. The show was at 7:30. Yeah. It was really, really, really tight. And I remember getting back to the campsite that night or getting to the campsite. I hadn't even had a chance to check into the campsite. Going to the campsite. And no, I had driven to the campsite. That's right. And then I got a cab from the campsite, because I just left to the theatre to get me there quickly because there was nowhere to park at the theatre. And they said, "Well, no, we've got nowhere for you." Like, oh, Christ. So then I got back to the campsite at night and I thought, I am not sleeping in my car. So I turned the headlights on of the car and pitched the tent in the headlights of the car. It took me about, and it was summer, it was hot, and I just got in the tent, curled up in the sleeping bag and fell asleep. And I thought, well, that was one hell of a day. And we were there for the whole week. It was a lovely week there. And the next day they found me a parking space and all the rest of it. But and then it wasn't only that. It was only as I was lying in the sleeping bag going, that cost me nearly £800 to get that repaired today. Because they said, "We've got to do all the brakes and everything." He said,
Yeah.
and I just lay there going, okay, so that's this week's shot and next week's shot.
Yeah.
It was just, but there was no question that I wasn't going to get there.
No. I think that's a big part of traveling. You do everything in your power, don't you? Because I guess
absolutely,
because that pressure is back on you, because that expectation is on you, and because to an extent by driving you've volunteered that you will do that safely.
Yeah, take the responsibility. Yeah,
interesting one. One quick note, because we're going to have to run in a sec. Sat navs. You've obviously experienced life without one. I mean, so have I to an extent. But I use my sat nav for every journey I do, and people will go, "Well, it's stupid. You go do the same journey, you know your way." I do, but my sat nav tells me traffic.
And I do exactly the same thing.
Every journey has more than one route to it.
Yes.
And beyond that, can you still buy a map from anywhere? I'm not sure you get like.
I don't know.
We rely on Google Maps, don't we?
I used to print.
Available, I suppose. But.
Yeah. I used to print out the routes. Like the AA and the RAC.
My parents used to do the same. Yeah,
I used to print them out and stick them on the steering wheel of the car and drive along, just reading the route on the steering wheel of the car.
That's nice and safe, isn't it? But
yeah.
But you think about it, like, is that any different to looking over at a map? Then
probably not.
Argue, no, it's the same. But although we do now have voice instructions,
they'll talk to us.
Turn left. Yeah. I had a sat nav. I'm going completely off topic now. I had a sat nav in one of my old cars, and it was a retrofitted, like, fancy screen thing. And it used to give you voice commands for instructions, but it used to be so late. So, most things will go in 500 yards, turn left. I swear mine used to go in 5 meters, turn left. Or in 5 meters, take the next exit. And you're like, I'm doing fucking 70. 5 meters is back there. Like, what? The next turning on the right is in 3 yards. What? No, it's gone. What are you doing? So I think technology has certainly helped us in that respect. But I don't think I'd get by quite so easily now without a sat nav. The amount of travelling that we do for the job, and certainly, as you say, the dinner theatre stuff we do, where we're somewhere different in the country or perhaps abroad every single time.
Every gig, yeah.
Then and things like what 3 words are an absolute revelation because it's so accurate. But yes, no, it just sort of came to mind because you said earlier, now ignore the sat nav. So there are even times where having a sat nav can't bloody help you because the sat nav gets confused. So trust the robot unless you don't trust the robot.
Unless you don't trust the robot.
Get it wrong. Yeah. Absolute madness. But yeah, well, thank you, mate, because you sort of, that topic sort of came out of nowhere. But I think
out of nowhere, yeah,
interesting one we've not dived into before in the same way. We've talked about travel. We talked about various the process of traveling and its integral nature when it comes to what we do. I guess I've not really thought about it, but it certainly is a big part of it.
It certainly is a big part of it, and massive, yeah.
Speaking of travelling, ready?
Yes.
Segue coming up. Someone's travelling to see us next week.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
It's not strictly true because it'll be a guest on Zoom. But travelling through the medium of the internet to join us. Yes, a guest episode next week. Very much looking forward to this one. One that has taken a little while to organise, but will be well worth the wait. We are absolutely sure. So yeah, yet again, ladies, gents, boys, girls, wherever you are, whoever you are, thank you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed today. We've certainly enjoyed today. Well, I've enjoyed most of today. Not so much my drink, but there's nothing I can do about that.
Oh, that's it. Oh, he's enjoying that. Oh, it's doing you so much good.
So lovely. Beyond that, I will be back. Drew will be back. My protein shake will not be back next week, but we'll have a lovely guest instead. So until then, have a good week, and we'll speak to you very soon. Cheers all.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.